All right, guys, welcome to our 11th PAC event. Tonight we have a real treat. We have a debate on fracking between seniors Eric Ostberg and Adam Krol and Lyra, Sior and Nick Pattison. Tonight we're going to have a 1-minute opening statement from each team, followed by questions from the audience. You can direct that on one team or the other, or both teams, and then the other team will then have a 1-minute rebuttal. At the end, each team will have a 1-minute closing statement, and then after that we're just going to have a few quick announcements and we'll be out of here by 7:45. To begin, we're going to play a short audio piece done by National Geographic on exactly what fracking is.
Average.
Oh wait, I wanted to... Ignore her. Oh.
Shale formations underlie much of the United States. They are the source of natural gas and oil. Historically, the formations have been difficult to drill. Today, it's possible with the technology of fracking. In North Dakota's Bakken Formation, fracking started in 2006. Nearly 8,000 active wells now dot the landscape. Deep underground, horizontal pipes stretch up to 2 miles long. The Iverson well, drilled in 2010, illustrates the fracking process. The well plunges nearly 2 miles down, with cement and steel casing inserted to prevent leaks into groundwater. The well curves when it reaches the Bakken, layers of shale that sandwich a layer of sandstone. The pipe follows the sandstone because that's where shale oil collects. Fracking begins by forcing plastic balls down the well. The balls open sleeves in the pipe to expose holes. Fluid is then pumped down the well under extremely high pressure. The fluid shoots through the holes and fractures the rock. Over the course of 3 days, this well fracked the rock 29 times. The bursts show where fissures were created. Once fracking is done, oil is released and flows up the well. The used fluid, which contains toxic materials, flows up with the oil. Some of the fluid is recycled. The rest is pumped into disposal wells deep below groundwater. The long-term environmental effects of fracking are unknown, but in coming years, the number of wells in North Dakota is expected to jump from today's 8,000 to 50,000.
All right. So, would our first team open up the debate?
Yes.
All right. Well, hydraulic fracking is not a perfect process by any means. There are potential flaws in the operations as with any other venture of its kind. However, we are on the horizon of an energy renaissance that could release America from its energy dependency from other countries and embark on a new age of America as a supplier instead of a taker. Not only are we looking at an energy renaissance, but a nationwide spark economically and an opportunity to create 1.1 million jobs in the next 6 years alone. Hypothetically, if a mere 20 wells were built in every county of New York, it would bring in an estimated $4.2 billion into the market. Despite all the unwarranted criticism, hydraulic fracking is growing every day whether we like it or not. It's best that we just hop on board with this revolutionary idea that is beneficial for the environment and our economy. The situational and at best circumstantial environmental concerns cannot compare to the vast untapped resources at our fingertips that could revive our country as a whole.
You guys good? All right. Well, I would like to be pretty clear with you guys that extraction of fracking and natural gas is hazardous at the cost of public health and the environment, and the public health and environment has a lot more lasting impact on like the world and the everywhere than creating jobs and lowering energy costs. Like you guys said, you want to hop on board with the revolutionary idea of fracking, and we really don't know. It's a revolutionary idea. We don't know much about the process yet. And the environmental effects and dangers have been pretty traumatic to the people who are in it and the residents near fracking areas.
Thank you. Questions to open up the debate? Any questions out there? Gabe Homan?
Two for the pro-fracking side, or actually more for the pro-fracking side. So I live in Pennsylvania, and although there's not a lot of fracking going on near the city and near Philadelphia, in Western PA and Central PA that happens a lot, and there are videos on YouTube where people can light their faucets on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Seen
So
them.
what would you, or how would you respond to how we can fix that?
The thing about it is, before there was even fracking in Pennsylvania, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, went to Pennsylvania and tested all the water there before any fracking was even done. 40% of the water they determined in sites in Pennsylvania that were tested before drilling occurred failed to meet drinking water standards mandated by the federal government. Most of the drinking water, first of all, wasn't even drinkable. Also, the fact is that methane can be released in other ways. It can be released through oil production. Why do you think they call them the Pittsburgh Steelers? Oil and coal has been mined and found in Pennsylvania since, industrial times in American history. A lot of that methane and chemicals in the gas or in the water come from before hydraulic fracking was even done in Pennsylvania.
In a documentary by BBC, they took a look at this, and I watched the examples of scientists taking a lighter to a bucket of water, and essentially what it comes down to is...
All right, that's time right there, guys. Thank you. Nick and Lyra?
All right. The reason for like you said, Gabe, if you turn on your water faucet, people who have contaminated water, they'll turn on their faucet, light up a match, water will light on fire. That's because there's tons of chemicals in it, volatile organic compounds, hazardous things that really cause, first of all, really bad health impacts. There's about over 3,000 people on the list of harmed people in Pennsylvania, and this is created by fracking it. Like the methane will leak into aquifers and then contaminate that, and it not only impacts health, but it also impacts agriculture, because this is also in very rural areas, so people often are farming or cattle farming, and that a lot of their crops will die, and that affects the economy of agriculture, and it affects their health also. So,
One question, Christian. Can we rebuttal to what they said?
Okay, all right. First of all, when it comes to Pennsylvania, first off, the reports of water contamination are sporadic and very circumstantial, and they have to do with a lot of special scenarios within that certain area. Most of the issues that come with fracking, obviously it's fairly new, and some of the issues have to do with well construction, but not the actual kind of form of fracking itself.
Yeah, because where we drink water from, is drinking from the surface of the earth to about 1,000 feet below their surface. Fracking is done about 12,000 feet below surface. So the process of fracking underneath the earth, that's not the water that's seeping into the water supply, all right? The problem is with the construction of the wells. Right now, the construction of the wells are not totally regulated by state governments. There is human flaw. The 60 Minutes mentioned there are humans that try to cut corners. There's all sorts of things. That is not the part of fracking underneath the soil. If everything goes correctly, that should not happen. And it has. It has been proven that some has seeped in, but it's from surface problems.
You say that some has seeped in from surface problems, and also you say that it's sporadic and circumstantial. But in fact, it's actually sort of down to a science. If there are abandoned wells nearby that are that have been used for extraction of gas many years ago that they do not know about. Oftentimes, the deeper wells will suck up methane, but also the methane will go in through those abandoned wells and leak out through there and cause contaminations through that. And so, in fact, that's one of the ways that wells are also contaminating, and also disposal wells are where you put all the water that you use for fracking, and those are also very unsafe.
The one thing that
We're actually going to take another question if there's another question. Jonah?
Do we even know what chemicals are being pumped into the
we actually do know exactly which one do you want to pose this to.
Anti-fracking.
Okay.
Okay. What's our list?
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So, well, there's about 29 chemicals in 652 products that are, well, all right, hold on. There's 652 chemicals in general that are used in fracking usually, and they shoot all those down in there, and 29 of those are either known as possible human carcinogens, are regulated under the Safe Drinking Act, or are risks to the air pollutants or health. Lyra would also.
So not saying that every single company uses the same chemicals because they all have their different fracking fluids, but some of them that they've seen in the lists are lead, uranium, mercury, radium, methanol, and different acids. So to have any of those contaminate either the ground or the water could be detrimental to health.
Well, we have a statistic here that has to do with the chemicals and what is flushed into the pipes. 90% of it's water. All right, clear that water is using most of it. 9.5% of it is sand. That leaves about 0.5% of the fluids that go down have to do with other chemicals. A lot of it has to do with common household items, like sodium chloride, which is table salt, with cleaners, with stuff that goes into lipstick, with certain kind of gum that goes into making ice cream. There's a lot of common household things that go into this 0.5% of the chemicals that go through.
And also, when it comes to regulating pollution, whether it be groundwater or chemical interaction with aquifers down in the dirt, that's also on the states to regulate also. This is a state regulated issue, and it's specific to each different state depending on what kind of drilling is going on there, and ultimately it's something that if proactive can be prevented, and certainly don't outweigh the positives of the overall benefits of hydraulic fracking.
Because it's not a perfect process. We said that in the beginning.
That's time.
Can I rebut that, please?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so even if they are found in a lot of household items, it still creates the consistency that after used, the fracking fluid cannot be biodegradable, so they have to inject it into the earth somewhere else so that it can just be disposed of. And also, the government, fracking itself is exempt from a lot of different acts that the government has put in place for like safe drinking water and air pollution.
Yeah, there's much corruption within that. A lot of these same lobbyists who work for the EPA also work for these big companies. And you also said 0.5% of the chemicals are hazardous, and actually
that's not what I said. I said 0.5% of the fluid.
Fluid is hazardous, and there's 4.4 million gallons of water are shot into the well per well job. So just imagine, like, that's a lot of water, or a lot of chemicals, even though it's 0.5, and all you need is just a little bit to really poison the surrounding environment.
No, one thing I want to bring up is that not all the contaminants in the waters that we've mentioned, a lot of the contaminants don't come from fracking. Like, there was another case in Pennsylvania where what they found in the water was contaminated with iron and aluminum, stuff that does not go into fracking or come out. So a lot of
The EPA has also done studies in Wyoming and Pennsylvania, and it determined, the Environmental Protection Agency determined that all of these complaints and water and groundwater contaminations are, quote, preliminary and are special to each case and provide no sufficient correlation to fracking itself, as association does not cause causation.
Right, thank you. Olivia?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of all new to me, but I know that the future, because fracking is new, that the future, like, potential problems, like, with people's health or the effects of fracking are unknown. I was wondering, it's kind of more for fracking, but, like, do you think it's all worth it? I mean, you clearly do, but why do you think it's worth it? If people's lives could be jeopardized and the earth could be jeopardized.
That's not true. It's completely worth it. You want to talk about foreign energy dependency right now. All right, we depend about, I think the number was 50% of our energy we depend on other countries to be imported to us. We have the equivalent of 2 Saudi Arabia's worth of oil in natural gas in our country. This is an extreme opportunity for us to become the dominant supplier of natural gas to the rest of the world.
Also, there's a large economic benefit to this. Between 2007 and 2011, the per capita income rose by 19% in Pennsylvania counties with more than 200 wells. These wells, by 14% in these counties with between 20 and 200 wells, rose 14% per capita, and 12% in counties with fewer than 20. Where other places in Pennsylvania that did not have any wells, they rose at a rate of about 5%. This is during the recession, 2007 to 2011.
That's time. Nick and Lyra, please.
All right. Well, you said that there's enough gas to sort of that's equivalent to 2 Saudi Arabias, and while that may be true, I mean, oftentimes the companies will make estimates and then sort of find their estimates either very high or very little, and the amount that they really find underneath the ground is hard to really say until you actually have it. And also, what are you going to do once you're done with all of the stuff, like all of the gas underneath the earth?
We don't need to mine all of them.
There's many better options that are better for our environment, our future, and our health.
Well, the natural gas itself contributes half the pollution of oil. Like it's an even better resource as it is right now. And we're also talking about the creation of 1.6 million jobs in the next 6 years, jobs that didn't exist before, jobs that we can give to the unfortunate people who were forced out of the workplace.
Like during the recession in 2007 and 2009, employment was declining throughout America. Where there was no drilling, the number of jobs sank in each county at an average of 3.27%. Counties with fewer than 20 wells improved only marginally on this number, losing less than 3%. However, these counties with between 20 and 200 wells only lost about 1% of their jobs. Finally, the most striking value is that the growth of employment in counties with more than 200 wells. These counties added jobs at an average rate of 8%. No counties with over 200 wells lost jobs. All right? And we have a little statistic here that by 2020, there is a chance that that we make over 1.6 million jobs. All right? This can get us out of this recession that we've had for so long.
All right, Nick and Lyra, please.
But again, there are other forms of green energy that we could use that wouldn't be so hazardous to people's health. Like we have solar energy, wind energy, et cetera, and all of those could also provide jobs with the making of these.
My response to that. Okay.
And also, like I said, jobs is a very sort of short-term, sort of, I mean, maybe long-term effects, but also the long-term effects of public health, the environment, and sort of the economy that is detrimented by the agriculture that is hurt and the environment that is hurt.
First of all,
has much more long-term effects.
All right, we're gonna take another question. And no one wants to speak at the beginning. I don't understand this. We're going to go to the back in the gray shirt, and you always ask questions. I never know your name, so can you say your name first?
I'm Wiley.
All right. Your question, please.
Hi. My question, you guys said in your opening statement that fracking is energy revolution. And, you know, methane is cleaner than oil or whatever, but it's still a fossil fuel and it does do damage to the environment. Now, I was wondering why put as much effort into fracking when we could be putting that effort and resources into cleaner forms of energy like solar or wave energy or hydroelectric power.
Having to do
Why
with
is it
okay, sorry.
Why is fracking better than
There has to be this bridge between what we have now in solar energy. They project to get the amount of energy that we have in natural gas underneath the United States, it would take 30 years of solar building of winds and solar panels to create that amount of energy. We have enough natural gas in our country to survive us at least the next 40 years. A bridge to get us to that point.
Absolutely. Many of the companies that we looked at interviews with did research on, say this is something that we can use right now that's beneficial for the environment, that it gives us an advantage in the world with our foreign policy, and it can, like he said, bridge the gap between the advances, because right now we are not ready to depend on solar energy, wind energy, whatever you want, or vegetable oil, whatever. Get out of here. We're not ready. It's not ready yet, right? And this is something that we have right now that is able to stimulate the economy, create wealth through everyone, and essentially bring the free market back into.
Okay, so you're talking about bridging the gap. Well, methane is far more of a potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, and any time natural gas or any hydrocarbon is burned, you are releasing methane into the air. So is it really going to bridge the gap if we're just speeding up the process of changing climate?
And it releases more methane than coal.
But more CO2, or less CO2 in the process, half as much.
Yeah, but methane is much more detrimental to the atmosphere, the greenhouse gases. It's much more of a potent greenhouse gas. So I suggest maybe just getting, like you said, maybe pushing us that next 40 years so we're ready to do alternative energy fuels with just coal, just what we're using now.
What are we going to do? We're going to keep spending $1 billion a day of the American people's money to go buy more energy from other areas, and we're the biggest importer of energy in the world. And mind you, we're not the #1 creator of pollution in the earth. You know, we have like this whole thing about we need to save the environment. It's not just us. We are saving the environment by letting off less CO2 in the #1 producer of pollution. All right, we have regulations, the state out regulations to how much pollution can be given off by these companies. If they do more, they get fined. They get hurt in the process. All right, so they can only give off so much methane into the air. You know, it's not like we're doing this unlimitedly. They are regulated by the states, but they need to be more regulated because this process is not perfect, as we've said before. But done correctly and perfectly, this has astronomical benefits that can help everyone in America, including bringing us out of what was our recession.
Dick and Lyra, would you like to respond? Would you like to
I would like to say that that fracking is the cleaner forms. You said that it's much more. It will save us much more money. But in fact, if we search for alternative fuels later and right now, it will save us much more money in the long term than spending a lot of money for natural gas and then having to clean up after it also, with all these oil spills and the danger to public health and the environment, and people getting their tap water just burning and people's health being nauseous, people getting headaches and rashes and burns from it. It will cost us actually more money to pursue natural gas in other sectors.
Here's the thing. I need to comment on this.
More questions.
Yeah, kidding me? I'd like to know how much money that is going to cost us, because.
Hold on. I know how you feel, Adam. Was that an 18 micro reference? Back up.
I had a question. You guys say that this is something that our country will need in order to gain energy independence, and then you also say that it's something that the states need to regulate. I'm just wondering, which would you prefer to have regulate this issue? Because it does seem to be a national thing. So should this be regulated at the federal government or at the state government?
When we talk about state regulations, we're talking about regulating pollution rates as far as air, potential pollution rates, I should say, in the air, and monitoring the drilling process itself. That's something that needs to be monitored on a state level. That doesn't really have to do with the giving us energy independence. That's the whole problem with a lot of the anti-fracking folks say that it's the air pollution, but really the states are trying to buckle down on creating regulations for certain amounts of different pollutants to be released from the process itself. That's something that can be easily managed.
That's what California is doing. California's been on top of it. They also require businesses to release what is in their chemicals. And the fact is...
They're not really related.
You mean release like a list, not release into the air?
No, release a list.
It's not really related. This gives us complete energy independence.
And it's different in every state, all right? You have 8,000 done in North Dakota. It's different in California because there's less shale rock. It's different in Ohio because there's more shale rock than in California. It's different for every state. That's why it needs to be state regulated instead of federally regulated.
Thank you. Nick and Lyra, would you like to respond?
I would like to respond, and I would like to say that there really haven't been many documented cases, actually, or there have been documented cases, but none exposed to the public of fracking being any fracking what do you call it, leaks, and that's also because of the sort of corruption that lies in the system of government. They have the case, they seal it, and they don't expose it to the public. And it sort of shows you that the people who work at these companies really sort of manipulate how they gain and create laws and how they appear to the public.
So
in
even
that sense.
with these lawsuits and these lobbyists, who is to say that the state government could control the regulations when the lobbyists could just go and get the fracking exempt from all of these new acts and laws that are getting passed?
And I could easily respond and say that there aren't many documented.
We're gonna actually take more
true
questions.
cases.
We're a little short on time.
True cases of people being
We're a
sick
little short on time. I think
directly
take
from
more
fracking.
questions.
We tried to find
Aaron?
specific.
Yay! Okay, you know how you said that it's really economically beneficial and that'll probably last for 40 years? So that's kind of like, so that's only temporary, and also, and if we speed up the process of using it up, it's gonna go by fast, and it's just gonna lead to lower prices, and then later on as it gets used up, it's gonna lead us to inflation, and then it'll put us more into recession. So why can't we just use the money for like alternative, environmental?
That's going to be done in the process of all this. Nuclear, or like solar energy and wind energy, that's not ready yet. All right, there's a bridge between it. We need to supply ourselves with energy. Whereas, and you mentioned lower prices. That's a good thing, folks. That's helping the middle class get a cheaper form of energy until we get to that bridge point where we can rely on solar energy.
We're talking about creating wealth here for the whole country, as far as boosting money. Boosting money into the economy. There's this thing referred to as shaleonaires, which are people who have property on top of shale in different states, and drilling companies pay those people, homeowners, the rights to drill on their property. This is a phenomenal way to boost economic sustainability in a time where we need it extremely badly. You're talking about creating 1.6 million jobs in the next 6 years that didn't exist before.
So let's say,
I would like to say, you said you want to create, you're trying to create wealth in the, support it, and I would want to sort of ask what kind of wealth you want to create, and if you're going for natural gas, the wealth goes straight into the big companies, into the CEOs, like all those like, and also you also have the workers there too, but also you have to take a look and at the people who live near these fracking facilities. Yes, they're going to have jobs from fracking, but also their land, the people, it's often in rural areas, so there's very much like farming areas, and these farmers will lose their jobs because of the water contamination. Their cows will die, crops won't like produce as much. So
rare circumstances there that one
special circumstances.
a 1 in 10,000 wells chance of that happening, especially when they're being drilled on their property. One example, one farmer got $500,000 for his land. He was able to fulfill his dream. Another one got $2 million based on how much shale rock is underneath you.
We looked for specific examples of people who where the water was directly affected by fracking and therefore to affect the individual, and there's no concrete data out there. It's all speculation, which is fair, totally fair, but there's no direct correlation, and even the EPA did a study that we looked at, and it talked about over 10,000 wells. They said that he mentioned there was one serious complaint that was legitimate in fracking directly affecting water contamination and air contamination. We could talk about that town that we watched a video on where fracking took a place in this town that was kind of on its way out, and essentially it revived the town as far as giving these people jobs and creating stores for the workers to go to on breaks to buy tools and equipment and clothing. Essentially, this is when we talk about creating wealth. If you want to read what you were going to read.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say that for next time, but the fact is right now there's a lot of unknown. You mentioned all the unknown, and it's true. It is a lot of unknown.
Thank you. Do you guys want to respond, or do you want to get in one last question?
I would like to just quickly respond and then get the question. All right. So there is not much direct knowledge of fracking to like person, but that might also be because of the corporate sort of way of concealing all of the incidents, and really there's many people who are like real people who are impacted by this, and communities who are just devastated. Like, imagine a whole town just done. You know, like they can't drink water, can't bathe in their water, can't even like grow any crops. Like, what are you gonna do? You just have to move out.
We talked about.
We're going to take another question.
No, this is a direct response.
So this is to the anti-fracking. So the economic potential, I don't really personally think that can be argued. So do you have a like an alternate solution to say, you know, like, well, yeah, there's a lot of potential here. So say it is really unsafe. So do you have kind of another way of getting that economic?
A compromise.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a compromise in this?
A compromise.
Or just or a completely different way of doing.
Sorry.
It's better than
Sort of a different way of like.
So say like fracking is like is done, you know. So there's no more fracking.
Yeah.
So what's another potential thing that's as or close to economically
As
powerful as
powerful.
Fracking?
I mean, you have wind energy, which is renewable energy resource. You know it's going to be there for very many years until like the sun goes away. You have
The sun goes away. I thought it was solar.
you have solar energy. Same thing. Sun goes away, then it's gone. And if you invest in these, you're gonna have people building these things, setting them up, and maintaining them. And you're gonna have people being paid to have wind farms on their property, and you're going to create energy, going to create jobs, and going to stimulate the economy.
I'm sure that sounds
That's not
awesome.
been
It
proven
sounds
at the
awesome, but it hasn't happened. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's not gonna
it sounds
happen
great.
if you put our money behind.
But we don't have the time. It's a 30-year process till we have enough to equal this. We're just going to look at something here. You mentioned before how much money we can put, all this money we're putting into hydraulic fracturing, into solar energy. I was looking at the GDP growth that the IHS study found. The shale gas contribution to the GDP was $76.9 billion in 2010, which will only be by 2015, and will nearly triple to $231 billion by 2035, all in 2010 dollars. So what our value of our
this isn't a small economic impact. This is a lasting economic impact that can bring a lot of people a better quality of life.
And now we become top exporters by the year of 2018. We're top exportors of energy in the world.
There are pros and cons. We're going to do closing statements now. We're really short on time. We're really short on time. That clock's wrong. It really is.
Yeah, that costs.
Krol and Ostberg.
Bring it home. Bring it home.
All right.
Bring it home. Bring it home.
The fact of the matter is that the United States has an opportunity. The opportunity to not only become a major superpower in production, but create opportunities for the unfortunate ones who have been forced out of the workplace. Every operation in life has its pros and cons. However, these cons can be monitored and risks avoided with good monitoring by state governments. This includes proactive and being creative, having safer work environments, not only for workers but locals as well. Health concerns are merely circumstantial, and test after test by the EPA, GWPC, Clean Water Council find that these so-called harmful chemicals and other denominations by locals are merely preliminary, and it is simply undeniable that the benefits outweigh the risks. Hydraulic fracturing has been used in this country since 1947. And that it has no adverse impacts. It should be expected that hydraulic fracturing will be used into the prosperous future of America.
All right. So some may say that we don't have enough time to buy until we get renewable energy, but I mean, look up. We got lights on right now. Seems like we got enough time. Anyways, imagine yourself in a small town where rural and you're just walking through the grocery store, driving down the street, and you see just fracking signs that say "Stop fracking." You drive down to the town next door, and they've got fracking. Like there's a fracking facility right there, and they don't have any water. They're a small town, so mostly like agriculture, and the farmer that you know from that town has just been devastated because he feeds his crops, which take the water that comes from the aquifers down there, are contaminated and are not as good. And so this impacts the agriculture, public health, and environment.
Thank you. Let's get a round of applause for both teams.